Tēnā koutou Aotearoa, welcome to the Export Beer Garden Studio. Welcome to the BYC Podcast, which I triumphantly note has been outrageously nominated for the New Zealand Radio Awards Best Sports Podcast, announced next week. Congrats to everyone who was on the 40,000-page nominations list for the awards. And win or lose, we will definitely be having a few Export Golds at the awards next week. It's lovely to be back at the headquarters of the Alternative Commentary Collective after a not particularly well-deserved, but enjoyable nevertheless, hiatus over the arse end of summer and the first bit of autumn. This week on the BYC, we're going to dig into the IPL and the dearth of Kiwi highlights, make some wildly uninformed predictions about the fast-approaching T20 Cricket World Cup, and maybe a morsel of cricket violence just to cleanse the palate at the end. I'm Paul Ford, godfather of the Beige Brigade, and I'm joined by New Zealand's greatest sporting Substack scribe and voyeur of all things sports-related, Dylan Cleaver. How the bloody hell are you, DC?
I'm bloody good, Paul, and it's really good to be back. It's great to be talking cricket again, especially as the weather kind of turns. It feels nice to have something sunny and bright in my life, and that is cricket.
Oh, bless. And I imagine you've been very, very excited and fired up and staying up till all hours watching the IPL, watching New Zealanders do sort of sweep in the IPL. Sweep, and by sweep, I mean sweet FA. 8
players, 55 games in total, 598 runs in total, 34 wickets in total. It was no live television coverage here, so just app highlights the next morning. It was a total washout as far as I was concerned. Daryl Mitchell, 318 of those 598 runs. Perhaps he was the highlight, scoring 142, but it was a bit meh, really. Richards started off with a hiss and a roar and finished with a hiss and a roar and did nothing in between. Was even dropped for a while. Trent Boult, by Trent Boult's standards, 16 wickets across 16 matches. You know, he was good. He was good, but he wasn't great. And then, a whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah, it was tough going. It's tough going. I mean, so many of the New Zealanders literally not even getting out of the nets, which is, I guess, a bit of a worry as we look ahead to the T20 World Cup. But, you know, in terms of the IPL, that lack of TV coverage, I do actually know it was on the Colours TV channel on Sky. I found this out only in the last few days. It was on, which is a Viacom brand, $10 a month. I assume it was in Hindi, so it may have been reasonably inaccessible.
Yeah.
It was apparently there.
You had to pay extra for it. And look, can I just say one thing about the IPL? Can you indulge me for a little?
Absolutely.
A little minute?
I've got a couple of things to say as well, but you go.
I mean, there's an argument here that should we even care about it? And I'm going to dismiss that argument and I want to know, what is New Zealand cricket's IPL strategy? Because we actually need one. Because I've got breaking news for you. The IPL is not going anywhere. And I've got a follow-up story for you. It's going to get bigger. And when it gets bigger, it's going to get longer. You know, the CVC paid $700 million for the Gujarat Titans. I think RPSG paid even more. I think they paid $1 billion for the Lucknow license. You not think the BCCI is looking at that and thinking, oh, we haven't got a franchise in Nagpur, Indore, Rajkot. Jeepers, we could have a second Mumbai franchise here because there's 92 billionaires in Mumbai, which is exceeded only by New York City. The IPL is going to get bigger, it's going to get richer, it's going to get longer. They are not going to be happy with a 7-week window. It is going to become cricket. And what is NZC's strategy here? We're just going to wait every second year for an auction and hope we get a few players going there. We're going to become like Belgian football in the 70s. And I've just pulled that example out my ass here, where you're surrounded by England, Germany, Serie A, La Liga in Spain, all these leagues with scalability. And you're going to sit there and say, oh, it's all right. We've got good players here. We've got FC Bruges. We've got Anderlecht. The good players will stay and play here because we're Belgians. Cricket world is going to get swamped by the IPL, and I feel like we are just we're so passive. We're on the sidelines of it. And I just want to know, I want Scott Weening to come on this show actually and tell us what is the NZC's IPL strategy, because I think we need one. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. And it sounds like what you're saying at the moment. It seems like our strategy is based around hope, which is a famously
Correct.
Not particularly effective strategy. And I was just thinking, God, I don't know anything about the Belgian Pro League or whatever it's called. And I guess that's your exact point. I think, there's obviously this gaping gaping chasm between the fact that you've got the IPL, which is the tournament that national associations, if you took them in and they could confidentially disclose what they thought about it, they would rather their players weren't playing it. Let's be honest. I mean, the national associations don't want their players anywhere near this stuff because it erodes the international game in their minds. And I think on the flip side of that, you've got every single cricketer in the world trying to get into the competition. And it's a bloody difficult one to resolve, right? You know, you've got guys going into the IPL getting injured. You've got them being distracted during the middle of a series. You've got, a whole lot of cricket that they are being expected to play that they don't earn gazillions of dollars for. It's not a fair fight. And, look, it's no surprise that we're going to see, it feels like we're going to see, as you say, the globalization of these leagues, and we're going to see players doing 12-month contracts and deigning to play for their country when it suits them. And by when it suits them, it's when those big tournaments aren't on is going to end up being the time, unless you're a big country where you can pay your players squillions of dollars, and New Zealand is very, very unlikely to be doing that. And I don't think that playing players $10,000 per test match or whatever your universal fee is going to be is going to solve that problem, because if it's not the best versus the best, people aren't going to be that interested in watching it over time, I wouldn't have thought.
Correct. And the one place where you're going to get the best versus the best in the coming years, IPL.
That's right. And, you know, I did see, Jonathan Liu, who's a fantastic writer for The Guardian, he had a great line, which I've just grabbed here. He said, for all the Anglophone pearl clutching, the plaintive lament on the defacement of our game and its sacred balance between bat and ball, none of the treaties seem to strike at the real issue here, which is that the IPL has turned into a button-mashing, arcade-style hitting competition precisely because this is where the market needed it to go. I mean, it's beautiful writing, one thing, but he's making a very clear point that this is what the Indian market wants. And what the Indian market wants from a cricket point of view, the Indian market bloody well gets. It's just completely and utterly heading in that direction. The other thing that I saw is, you know, there's lots of chat about the IPL being tilted in the batter's favour. Well, you know, Indian appetite for hero worship of batting is real. And so, of course, that's going to be an inevitable pressure that comes on that tournament to champion, batters doing sensational things. And, you know, they've got the impact player rule that's come in. And I think it was Rohit Sharma came out and said, this is stuffing up our all-rounders. And I don't know if you saw the response from the IPL chairman, Arun Dhumal. He said, I don't really care. It's not my job to develop Indian all-rounders. I'm building the best possible product for my market.
Yeah, and I think these things are a little bit cyclical as well. I mean, batters are in ascendancy at the moment, but towards the end of the tournament, actually, bowlers started to come back into it a little bit more. Maybe that was conditions-based, or maybe it was just figuring it out. But you're correct. The market will get, they'll deliver what the market demands, and they are, and they're doing an incredible job of it. I read somewhere that it's already the fourth richest league, professional sports league in the world in terms of revenue, and by the year 2030 is projected to be behind only the NFL. So that's ahead of the Premier League, that's ahead of La Liga, that's ahead of the NBA and Major League Baseball, which has just got content coming out its ears. This is how big it is.
Yeah, it is quite extraordinary. And, you know, that per game revenue thing that you're talking about, I think that's based on the fact that at the moment there's about 70 games. Well, if it expands to 100, 120 games, it may dilute, but the aggregate number is going to be absolutely off the chain. It was a crazy tournament. I mean, I watched absolutely pretty much bugger all of it apart from a few highlights here and there, but the average run rate was 9.6 runs per over. There were 41 200 plus totals. I think at least half of those were over 250. 1,266 is in 14 tons. I mean, Jesus Christ. You talk about baseball. It's not really baseball. It's just home run derby stuff, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, unbelievable. Hey, DT, did you have anything more to tip in on this, or should we go have a quick ad break and then get stuck into some T20 Cricket World Cup?
Let's have an ad break and pivot to the World T20.
Yeah, welcome back to the BYC podcast. Back from a hiatus, and it's lovely to be back with you. We've got plenty to get our teeth into over the next few weeks. I mean, there will be a bunch of podcasts that we're going to get stuck into, particularly as the T20 Cricket World Cup kicks off. New Zealand, of course, will be in teal, the same colour as the Statue of Liberty, and an interesting colour too, DC, because it obviously is an homage to the 1999 Cricket World Cup, where New Zealand did, well, not that well, actually. We beat Bangladesh, we beat Australia, we lost to the West Indies, we lost to Pakistan, we beat Scotland, we had a no result against Zimbabwe, we lost to South Africa, we beat India, and we lost to Pakistan in the semis. So I guess what we're saying is we'll take losing to Pakistan in the semis in our teal.
Well, and was the teal actually a homage to a sponsor of the time? Was it a homage to Air New Zealand?
Or Clear, maybe?
Was it Clear? Was it?
Maybe, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah,
whatever it is, like teal's quite a bold colour. Like if you were working in terms of a fashion palette, it's quite bold. But they've actually managed to make quite a boring looking strip out of it, which is. I
always enjoy how ill-fitting the pants are in these sorts of kits. So I'm looking forward to that. There were certainly some awkward photos that came out. What did you think of the New Zealand squad? I mean, pretty predictable. I'll just go through it very quickly. Conway, the wicketkeeper. Allen, I think maybe the backup wicketkeeper, who knows. Williamson, the captain. Ravindra, Phillips, Mitchell, Chapman, Neesham, Bracewell, Santner, Sodhi, Southey, Ferguson, Henry, Bolt, and a travelling reserve, I believe, Ben Sears.
Yep. I thought it was boring, predictable. I am... When I say boring, I mean boring in terms of the sex appeal. We're not bringing bolters, and that just doesn't happen anymore, really. I think Finn was probably the last bolter that was picked for a big series or tournament. I have concerns on the one hand that are we going to back Conway and Williamson in the same top three? Clearly we are, and then you look at what happened at the IPL and go, that is not setting you up to score 9.5 runs per over. But they're quite smart. And I think they've looked at where they're playing, Trinidad and Guyana, and they would have done their stats. They would have chucked the old abacus at it and probably worked out what they'll need to score, kind of rough totals. I mean, this could all go out the window. You could be made to look stupid by it. But I think they're going to try and turn T20 into a bit of a grind. Fantastic bowling attack that's experienced, and if you look at the aggregate of wickets, it'll be second to none at that tournament. But yeah, they'll probably. I would not like to see this batting lineup try to mow down 250.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I use the word predictable. I might have also used the word stable or conservative. You've used the word boring. They're all in that same kind of spectrum of, yes, this is pretty much the team that we pick for every single tournament, give or take one or two names. Potentially last time around for a bunch of these guys too. Tim Southey, Trent Boult, you think Jimmy Neesham, Lockie Ferguson, even potentially Kane Williamson, Matt Henry, Sodhi. There's a bunch of these guys that maybe this is their last time around, particularly in the T20 World Cup. In terms of guys that I thought were unlucky, I thought Tim Seifert was unlucky, and I do wonder, he had a pretty good put together a pretty good record over the last few years for New Zealand in T20s. But I mean, maybe not set the world on fire. But crucially, what I was going to mention here is that a backup keeper, which we don't really have, and Conway's and coming back from injury, makeshift keeper in the top order. It just makes me nervous. And Seifert, I was just going to mention as well, he's got that CPL experience, which I think someone like Glenn Phillips is going to be quite influential in how our team shapes up, and the tactics and maybe not the selections per se, but certainly our approach, as you say, to kind of put the squeeze on with the spinners.
I guess at a pinch, Phillips could be a backup wicketkeeper, but it means you lose that option of him herring around the field, diving this way and that, and potentially bowling a couple of overs of filth. Yeah, look, I think Devon Conway's probably on the low rung of international wicketkeepers. They're banking on very few edges and very few beating the bats, I'd say. Finn Allen has done it as well. Yeah, same on that low rung, but it seems to be the trend now. The T20, you don't worry about your keeper. You just give the gloves to someone.
Yeah, it was interesting. I looked at that Australian squad, and without sort of getting into the nitty gritty of it here and now, because we can do that over the next few weeks. But they're talking about batting, down to 8 and Ben Cummins in at 9, just absolutely going for a full demolition and going hammer and tongs. Particularly well with that batting order. So yeah, quite a different approach you would assume to what New Zealand's going to do. In terms of the format, if the first game starts at 12:30 p.m. on Sunday, the 2nd of June, so in the middle of a long weekend, but that's the good news. The bad news is it's Corey Anderson versus Canada. So Corey Anderson, the USA team, they seem to have squeezed together a couple of decent wins actually against Bangladesh.
Yeah.
So it could be slightly more interesting for Kiwis to watch that. In terms of the New Zealand games, first game is Saturday the 8th of June at 11:30 a.m. Then they play the West Indies on the 13th at 12:30 p.m. A couple of these sort of middle of the day starts. Then Uganda, for God's sake, on the 15th of June at 12:30 p.m. and then Papua New Guinea on the Tuesday the 18th of June at 2:30 a.m. That will be one for the absolute stalwarts.
Diehards. Yeah, I will get up for that. You can guarantee it. But
it feels made for the bounce, Substack, absolutely, and for the BYC podcast, that type of fixture.
Yeah, the West Indies one's that's a premium fixture, isn't it? Is that in Trinidad?
Yep.
That one?
I didn't. Oh, do you know what? I didn't bring my little piece of paper with the actual locations on. My apologies, but yeah, it's on the 13th. But I was going to talk to you. So we've got this sort of pre-thing where there's really only one game of consequence. Afghanistan, could be a banana skin, but effectively that West Indies game is the big fixture in there. Then what happens is they go through to the Super 8s. So you have 4 pools, and then the top 2 go through from each pool. And these fixtures are basically predetermined based on the rankings. It doesn't matter if you come first or second in your pool. There's no jeopardy there. You just go through, and New Zealand is scheduled, if they make the top 2 and the West Indies go through as well, the groups that they will play in the Super 8, that New Zealand will play India, Australia and Sri Lanka, if everyone follows form. And in the other pool, it'll be Pakistan, England, the West Indies and South Africa. Now, that does reek a little bit of orchestration. And I think, to be fair, the orchestration is based around making sure that teams can get to their games in time, given the non-connectedness of the West Indies. So probably there'll be a few conspiracy theories around that at some stage, but I don't think that that's genuine. And then the semi-finals are on the Thursday the 27th and Friday the 28th, one at 12:30 p.m., one at 2:30 in the morning. And if India if India are a semi-finalist, they will play in the second semi-final regardless, and that's for the same reasons, just sort of practicalities. But it does look a bit weird in the draw when you start to see these funky little things. And then the final is on Sunday the 30th of June at 2 a.m.
in the pit of a New Zealand winter. That's something to look forward to, at least.
Exactly. So in terms of the conditions, DC, I saw Darren Sammy say that, and I mean, it's kind of an obvious thing to say, I guess, but he said, the teams that have got spectacularly unconventional bowlers or full balls out pace are going to be the ones that are going to have that X factor, and they're going to be the bowling units that are going to not get smashed around as much, which seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, I've kind of got in my mind, and perhaps I'm being fair here, but I've got it in my mind low and slow. I feel like when I've watched a bit of the Caribbean Premier League, or when teams have toured the West Indies in recent years, like we're long gone are the days of Sabina Park, every ball around your chin, or Kensington Oval in Barbados, and Marshall coming in and breaking Gadding's nose and all those sort of things. That feels like a different era now. To me, West Indies cricket, and it's really sad in a way, it's playing over there has felt more like a grind, which I think has kind of been part of New Zealand's thinking in the team that they picked. A lot of guys that can go pace off, a lot of spin options, and clever batters at the top rather than super explosive. So, yeah, that's what I'm expecting. Stand to be corrected, though.
Yes. Well, in terms of the favourites at the TAB, I had a quick look. It's India, Australia, England, and South Africa. Who do you think are going to make the semis, DC? Have you got a prediction for us? Yeah,
I actually would go with 3 of those. Well, no, actually, I'm going to go India, Australia, New Zealand, because I feel obligated to in some ways, and West Indies.
Yeah.
I know West Indies come a long way down on that favourites list, but playing at home, they've got a good record in the World T20 too. Well, they've got an all or nothing kind of record in the World T20. They've certainly,
I'm massively on board with you on this. So of course, I think England and the West Indies are the only team that have won the World T20 twice. A bunch of other teams have won it once. I think India, Pakistan, Australia, and Sri Lanka. But yeah, I agree. I think the West Indies, I mean, they turned England over. They've just turned South Africa over. And I would say that's a bit of an upset. They've got some, obviously some big hitters with the likes of Pooran and Russell. They've got interesting spinners, which to your grind philosophy, you know, Akil Hussain and Gudagesh Moti, but the two left armers, they tick the box of being a bit weird and a bit funky. I think they're going to be bloody tricky to get away. Yep. And then, of course, the rising star of Shamar Joseph with the ball. They've got Jason Holder's out. I think Obed McCoy's come in for him. But, yeah, they've just got, I don't know, I just feel like in those home conditions, they've got a bunch of guys. I think they had three guys. Sunil Nareen's, of course, not in their squad because he's retired from international cricket. But they had three guys, three West Indians who were in the IPL tournament team. Obviously, they have played a lot of cricket in the CPL. And they're pretty much, a lot of them are almost T20 specialists. Yes. I think they're a real threat.
Is Gray Russ playing?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Well, see, he
can do anything, right?
He's the kind of guy that will win you a game at a tournament because
it could be against anyone.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the stars, actually, I was a bit surprised to see this, of the recent 3-0 T20 series win over South Africa for the West Indies was Kyle Mayers. He didn't even make their squad. So, they've got I don't know whether that's a stupid selection. Probably on reflection, it may be. He's just a reserve.
Yeah, well, he was one of three overseas players at the IPL to not play a single game. Chris Wokes was another, and our very own Glenn Phillips, unfortunately.
Stitch up.
Hey, we've got a couple of other predictions, haven't we? Should we whip through those? So like we've established who the semi-finalists are. Who's going to win?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the West Indies. I just like the theory of it. I just think it would be wonderful for cricket if they could just pull off another absolute miracle over there. It'd be great from a crowd point of view. We know what New Zealand did over here when we hosted the World Cup. So I'm going to go for the romantic option of the West Indies, DC.
Yeah, and I'm going to go for the very boring option of Australia completing the set. There's something
it's okay if you say it. It's okay if you say it that and enthusiastically. That's okay. Yeah. Who do you reckon is going to be the star of the show? I've gone with Rashid Khan.
Ooh, yeah, solid. I am going to go with. Well, I've said it before, so I'll say it. I'll double down. Dre Russ.
Oh yeah, nice, clobbering it round. Biggest flop, I've gone with Virat Kohli, and that's just hope. I think he'll probably go pretty well in the tournament, but I'm really hoping he doesn't.
So I've got a couple of, I think, Anrik Nortje, who I love watching bowl, but he's sort of coming back from a bit of poor form and injury. I think he'll be cannon fodder over there. And the other one, I'm just not convinced, Sky, the Indian genius.
Surya Kumar
Yadav, who can play 360 degrees, but he's another choice for me for flop.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's Kohli and Sky. That would be sensational. Have you got a prediction for the biggest dickhead of the tournament?
Yeah, I've got. It's most likely to come from Australia. So
I agree. Yes.
So it's either going to be Warner, Wade, or Maxwell. I might go Matthew Wade there, but the other one I was thinking of is Hardik Pandya. He has got a dick moment or two in him. So.
Yeah, that's fair. It's funny. God, we did not confer on this, but I had Matthew Wade down, and I felt bad about it because I know he's had some dramas, but he just really grinds my gears. And then I saw that his kids' names were Duke, Goldie, and Winter, and that really sealed it for me, to be honest. He's retired from red ball cricket, and I'd really like him to go out of white ball cricket with his tail firmly between his single bollocked legs. Yes. Hey. We should probably head for the hills, DC, because we've got a bunch of these podcasts coming up. Before we go, though, can I just give you a little, just to cleanse our palate after the very serious chat, if we could just have something not too serious, which might be a little bit of Paul Ford's Cricket Violence Corner.
Paul Ford's Cricket Violence Corner.
Video footage has helped identify and apprehend 10 people who were involved in the stone pelting and use of weapons, according to the Belagavi Police Commissioner in Karnataka. 8 people were injured during a clash that erupted on Thursday after a minor altercation between 2 teams who were playing cricket. The altercation started after the losing team exchanged words with the winning team on the Maratha Mandia school ground. Listen to this. The on-field escalation morphed into a larger conflict by 8 p.m. involving parents and youths who came armed with swords, stones, and knives. Jesus. During the confrontation, a dozen houses were damaged and commercial establishments were forced to pull down their shutters. The police said we deployed 3 platoons and 50 extra police personnel to manage the situation, with 3 police inspectors patrolling the area. Charges laid included, and gee, there's some beauties here, unlawful assembly, rioting armed with deadly weapons, attempted murder, criminal forcing a woman with intent to outrage her modesty, intimidation, and promoting enmity between groups. Let's hope there's none of this in the West Indies, DC. Jeepers.
It sounded almost, when you started talking about that, it sounded like the news crews gathering for Ron Burgundy, those fights on the Anchorman. That was the movie I was thinking of. Yeah, it did. I expected someone to be armed with a trident or something like that. That's fantastic. I've got a challenge for Cricket Violence Corner for this upcoming season of podcasts. I want you to find a cricket violence in each of the 10 test-playing nations.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'm happy to throw Afghanistan in there as well, if that's okay. I think there's some real hot spots of cricket violence, and I'd like to put Afghanistan in there. But happy to go around the world with that, DC, for sure. That will be certainly a challenge in some of them. Hey, you should go. We should go. Thanks for downloading and tuning into the BYC. It's bloody nice to be back. Make sure you block out your work calendar with meetings and strategic working from home days as you line up the World Cup. Make it work for you. And we'll be back next week to foam ourselves to bits over Corey Anderson versus Canada and the misogynistic regime. That is Afghanistan. Plus, we will be reviewing the other opening matches of the tournament. Take care, DC, and ka kite.